Are you planning to renovate your kitchen and looking for decoration tips and practical advice on how to carry out the renovation? Even so, pay attention because you're watching the right video. Grab a pen and paper because I'm going to tell you everything right here in this video. 15 items, 15 tips and ideas that you can implement in your kitchen renovation so you can have a functional, beautiful, up-to-date, and modern kitchen. Hey guys, how are you all doing? Everything good? I am Ed Parquetetto, and in this video, this content is here to help you avoid making mistakes when decorating your kitchen. Don't do any kind of work, service, or execution, otherwise you'll end up regretting it later. That's right, this is also very important. Some of them here, you'll completely agree with me. So, write it down, get a pen and paper, rewind the video here, because I'm sure this will help you. If you're renovating your kitchen, if you want to, for example, give your kitchen an upgrade, these 15 simple ideas that I'm going to share with you right now will help you a lot. First tip, guys, have a backsplash made of the same material as your countertop. Imagine that you have your countertop in a white granite, that white stellar, a white quartz, and so on. Instead of having a small backsplash and a wall covering, you extend the same backsplash made of your sink's material. So look how interesting this is, and actually if you do the math, it's even affordable. It's actually a good cost benefit. Why do we use the full backsplash on that countertop of ours? There, imagine that you're going to have a white stellar granite on your sink countertop, a white stellar quartz anyway, okay? We're not going to talk about the material itself here, but let's talk about the style, the design you're going to have off your backsplash. Next, place your beautiful stone countertop. And then, instead of just having that little backsplash of 10 or 12 centimeters, you raise the entire backsplash with the same material as the stone, so you'll have your stone and the backsplash going all the way up. There. Aesthetically, it looks nicer. You won't have that raised detail there, that little step from the backsplash, okay? Aesthetically, it's cooler. It gives your kitchen countertop more presence. Another thing that's also interesting for you to consider and see if it's really going to look good or not depends on the material. Some countertop materials are so expensive per square meter that it's better to use them for a backsplash instead. Now, if you're going to use an average price, there's a base price here for more common materials like granite or quartz, for example. When it comes to buying porcelain tiles, the mortar, the grout, and the labor for the porcelain tile installer. And then when you bring this to the marble shop's budget, you'll see that it comes out about the same, let's put it that way. The same budget you would spend to install this, you could use to make your sink wall in porcelain tile. It's the same amount you would invest in having it. Instead of a small backsplash, a full backsplash on your countertop, there on your sink, between the countertop and the upper cabinet, that's usually where we always have the upper cabinet. So, the first option here, the first tip I want to tell you is instead of using a short backsplash, let's try to use a full backsplash which will look nice aesthetically. And suddenly it might cost the same as it would to install porcelain tile. Second item here. Second tip I want to bring to you is to leave the correct space in your baseboard. Imagine that when you're washing dishes or preparing some food, the tip of your foot keeps hitting that baseboard. So that can't happen. You need to leave a space that's suitable for your daily use. This tip here, it's a practical tip, okay? You're going to feel this difference in your daily life, using your kitchen, making food, washing dishes, whatever it is. You're there, leaning against the counter, your sink. And the baseboard, some people call it the counter base. I like to call it baseboard. It's not deep. It doesn't have an ideal depth between the end of your cabinet and its beginning. This baseboard is usually made of masonry, and then there's its front part right there. Some decorators like to use the same material as the stone. I personally prefer to use the same material as the floor. Okay, so you're using a porcelain tile there and you make the baseboard with the same material as the floor and the porcelain tile. I think it looks better aesthetically, but it needs to have some depth. You can't finish the baseboard flush, level with your furniture. Because when you go to wash your dishes or prepare some food, the tip of your shoe, your foot, will keep hitting there. That will bother you. It can even cause back pain. So this is a tip, even ergonomically speaking, for your back health. So you need to leave a certain depth in your baseboard there. Like, what would be the ideal measurement? What I use in my projects is 10 centimeters of depth. When the furniture ends here, I set the baseboard back by 10 centimeters. No problem, even if your foot is about 48 or 50 in size, you still won't hit the tip of your baseboard. So, this is an execution tip for when you're doing the project. When you're making the baseboard for your countertop, pay attention to this because it will work really well for your daily routine. So, in your kitchen, a recessed handle in the door itself, in your own cabinetry, whether it's on your cabinet doors, your drawers, or your overhead furniture, like your cupboard, right? Using a recessed handle. Have you seen that 45-degree recessed handle in the door itself? When you go to pull it, we don't have a separate handle. For example, in aluminum, a solid piece runs across the door, which I don't like aesthetically. It's not like I'm going to tell you to rip it out or remove it. No, if you have it, there's no problem at all. Now, in a new project where you hired me to do it, to make your project, I would recommend you use a recessed handle in the door itself, in the drawer itself. Aesthetically, for cabinetry, imagine you chose a beautiful cabinet, a nice, cool color, and then you go and fill it with handles. Then, whether you like it or not, there will be a break in the aesthetics of your cabinetry's decor, right? So, the recessed handle directly on the door or drawer is a tip I bring to you. It's very functional and also aesthetically pleasing. There are other models of recessed handles as well. Suddenly you set the cabinet, the overhead cabinet in your kitchen, back a little and let the door stick out a bit. Then you pull it there. It's another style of handle too, but this recessed handle is really cool. If you do the math, what would you invest in a handle model that you liked? With this model here, it might end up costing about the same. So that's another tip I want to share with you. Using a recessed handle built right into the carpentry, into the door you have on your drawer. There, instead of especially using a full-length handle that goes all the way across, this LED in the cabinet is really cheap, guys. It won't increase your cost, your budget there in your woodworking shop. In fact, if you already have your woodworking done and want to put this LED in your cabinet, right there under your overhead cabinet, it looks great and adds another lighting choice. If you're renovating and you've hired a carpenter to make the custom furniture for your kitchen, don't forget to tell the people who are doing the woodworking for you that you want a little LED under your overhead cabinet to light up exactly that wall above your sink countertop. Suppose our first example was a full backsplash, using the countertop material extended upward with no separate backsplash. And then you have an LED in that cabinet above, which will bathe your cabinet in light. It looks really beautiful. There's a small LED there. Including it in the project is free. If you ask the carpentry shop, they might even give it to you for free. If you close the whole project with them at the carpentry shop, it's really cool. It looks really nice. It's another lighting option for you if you really like to spend time in the kitchen, make different kinds of food, and enjoy cooking. This is a type of lighting that you'll use a lot in your daily life. So really consider having this little LED. It's like, I already have my cabinet here, so how do I get this little LED here? I'll leave the link for this LED strip that you can plug directly into the outlet here in the description for you. Alright, it doesn't need a power supply. Just plug it into the outlet. If you have a nearby outlet, even one hidden inside the cabinet, attach the LED strip with double-sided tape and plug it in directly. And you have this option to have lighting on that wall below your furniture, lighting up your countertop. Having a wet area that's a bit larger than the traditional or conventional size really makes daily use much easier. Using the countertop, washing dishes, washing food, and putting the dish rack there is also very convenient. Obviously, this tip I'm giving you about having a wet area on your sink countertop is for those who have a large sink, a large countertop. If your sink space is limited, you'll have to work with the wet area within the limits. Right there in the bowl, maybe just a bit bigger, and that's it. But if you have the option and a large countertop, why not make the wet area bigger? You already know what a wet area is, but I'll quickly repeat and show it here. The wet area is that slightly lower area that stays around our sink bowl. Exactly for when I'm washing dishes, washing food, or doing anything on top of my sink, on my countertop. This wet area won't, for example, reach my cooktop or get to any container or anything else that's there. In the dry area, create a slightly larger wet area. and maybe even on the right side if you're left-handed and so on, to put the dish rack. For those who don't have the dish rack built into the countertop, right there in your sink, that dish rack that's embedded in the stone, you have the more traditional one, the most common one, like the one I have at home. It's really nice to have a slightly larger wet area on your sink countertop. Again, I repeat, this applies to you if you have a large countertop or if you have a small countertop, a short space there on your sink countertop. You can't do this, but if you have the option, if you're going to renovate, build, or upgrade your kitchen, then you'll change the countertop. Think about this here, having a slightly larger area, this wet area of your sink countertop. Now I want to talk to you about the layout of your kitchen. You must have heard about the triangle layout, right? Using the cooktop, sink, and refrigerator is very functional in our kitchen. I want to bring this item here to explain it better. You may have already heard some professionals say that the perfect layout or the ideal layout for a kitchen is to have a triangle shape, which is called the triangle layout. In a kitchen, you should have the cooktop here, the refrigerator here, and your sink on this side. In other words, cooktop, sink, and refrigerator, they need to be in a triangle. But that's an idea that in our day-to-day design work, especially for those who live in apartments, doesn't work. There's no space, it won't fit or work. The layout is tight, the space for our kitchen is limited, so you won't be able to implement that. What should I say? That idea could work well in a large kitchen. Now imagine me here and you. We have an apartment where our sink wall will have the cooktop, sink, a little bit of dry area, refrigerator, so everything on the same countertop. The ideal would be to have this layout in a triangle. Is it to make your daily life easier, your everyday use in your kitchen? But if you don't have it, don't worry about what you hear out there. Oh, my kitchen didn't turn out well. My kitchen isn't great because it lacks the triangle layout and doesn't match what I saw online. Don't stress about it. Focus on using and making the most out of the useful space you have in your kitchen and set aside this idea of the triangle layout in your kitchen for a bit. All right, use what you have, try to improve and perfect the spaces you have. So, if the cooktop is here, your wet area is right there, right after your sink. The refrigerator is in the corner, working well and serving you. You can use your kitchen perfectly, okay? There's no problem at all. This idea of using a triangle here in the layout is only for when we have a lot of space and when we include this idea in the project for the client. And the client also has to agree, because if they don't, if you hire me and say, oh, I didn't like this triangle idea, then why does the sink have to be here, the cooktop on this side and the refrigerator here? I'm just going to keep spinning around like a fool, okay? So do what works for you, setting aside this idea here that many times when we design a kitchen doesn't work. Tile only on the wall behind the sink, which is really cool. What I've been using a lot in my projects is porcelain tile, right? Only on the wall where our sink goes, or maybe the cooktop. Pay attention. This is another way to save money in your kitchen, okay? In my current projects, I really make a point of giving tips and ideas to my clients. Whether it's using porcelain tile, stone, or anything like that, only on the wall behind the sink, right? Where the sink, cooktop, and stove are, for example. On that wall, we use the covering, whether it's porcelain tile, granite itself, or whatever. But covering the entire kitchen with porcelain tile or stone, I don't really like that, okay? The idea is to make the space as clean and as light as possible. Ah, Edipo, are you saying that? And what about using this paint on the other walls? Okay, kitchen, pay attention, think with me here. Look, in the kitchen, we usually have a lot of cabinets, we have a lot of cupboards, right? So that kind of eliminates the need to have tiles on those other walls. Another thing, if I just said that we should only have tiles on the wall behind the sink, why put them on the other walls? Then comes the idea of using paint, but it will stain and get dirty. You can use a water-based epoxy paint, which is very good, easy to clean, and very resistant. And for the kitchen wall, there are only a few walls that will actually show because of the cabinets. The small can of epoxy paint you buy is inexpensive. You'll only need one can, and you'll be able to paint the other walls there. So it's an idea, okay? It's a suggestion that I want to show and bring to you here. Have the covering, whether it's porcelain tile or some ceramic you like, only on the sink wall, leaving the other walls free. Cabinetry without a mirror or glass, You know that overhead cabinet that stays there above the countertop of our sink? Imagine if you have that, a mirror, right, that has the glass and the mirror in this cabinetry. I want to bring you another perspective here. Now look, in previous videos, this tip, this idea here, this item that I asked you about, okay guys, what do you think? Would you use the mirror on that overhead door there in your cabinet, in your kitchen? I got 90 messages here, responses on this video that, look, erectile dysfunction is hard to clean. It gets dirty really easily. Any frying we do already splatters, already makes it really dirty. We have to keep cleaning it constantly because it shows the dirt more, right? So 90% of the people who replied to me said they wouldn't use a mirror on these overhead doors. Then, out of our cabinet, 10% said, no, I would use it, I like it, I enjoy it. So that's a perspective I'd like to hear from you. Would you use a mirror on these overhead doors in your kitchen? I wouldn't, okay? I'll be honest with you, I'll say it again. If you hired me today to design a project for you, for your kitchen, with the cabinetry, I wouldn't use doors with glass or mirrors on that upper part, and on the lower part we usually don't use them anyway, but on the upper part I wouldn't put them either. Exactly because it's not an item, it's not the kind of thing that's very functional for everyday use. Okay? Imagine if I put it in and then after a year you're going to complain to me saying it gets dirty. It's very easy to get dirty. I could have just put the door or even the cabinetry here. So I'd like to hear your opinion here about this item. Would you use mirrors on the doors of your furniture in your kitchen or not? Undermount sink. This here, guys, is a must-have if you want to have a countertop, right? Your functional sink countertop has to have an undermount sink. This was also another question I asked you in previous videos. Which sinks would you use in your kitchen? Undermounted below our countertop, our material, leveled with the countertop, or a drop-in sink? The undermount sink got 95% positive responses saying yes, you would use it. The drop-in sink was pretty much the one that came in last, and the leveled one was also nice, but it has a price depending on the model. The sink that's flush with the countertop is probably the priciest. All right, among these three here, undermount, drop-in, and leveled, okay? But think with me, guys. Let's exchange opinions here. I want to know what you think. I'm talking to you here, and you answer me down in the comments. Imagine in your daily life, you who have a drop-in sink. It's going to create that slight bump there, that little ridge on our sink, and then to pull water back into the sink. It's a hassle, isn't it? It'll be harder for you to clean, a little bit of dirt will build up around the edge of your sink. Is it the undermount sink or the flush mount sink? We don't have that problem. So what we're talking about here, I want you to understand, okay? I'm not telling you to never use an undermount sink. If you hired me, I wouldn't use it. I'd use the flush mount or built-in one instead. Now, it's not that you can't use it. If you like this model, there's no problem at all. It's just for everyday use. You'll agree with me. You'll have a little more work to do the cleaning and maintenance of your countertop. Water filter, that traditional filter we have, it should be on the wall and not on top of your sink countertop. There's a water filter in your kitchen, which is natural. It's normal for us to have one. I have a water filter here at home. Other people sometimes have the filter right on the faucet. A lot of people like it, a lot of people don't. I'd like to know your opinion. Are you one of those who prefers the traditional filter, the one we always have, or a filter on the faucet? I'd like to hear your opinion, but what's the tip I want to share with you here? Having a water filter in your kitchen, natural. But in my opinion and in my projects, I always try to put it on the wall, never on the countertop. Okay, only if there's no other way, only if there really isn't. Like if you're going to lose a lot of space and your overhead cabinet space is already limited, then, okay, you leave it on your countertop, but other than that, always on the wall. Keep your countertop free. It's easier for you to clean and do anything on your countertop. The filter on the wall is already well fixed, looks really nice. There are situations where you can even make a little carpentry box to hide that little hose and the outlet behind it, okay? I've done that before. There was a project where I did it like that. So, my tip and my idea for you is, are you going to install the filter? Are you planning? Are you renovating your kitchen? Think carefully, then install the filter, water connection, and power outlet there to plug into the wall. Never on the countertop. Now, if you already had your kitchen, If you bought an apartment or house and aren't renovating now, you have to leave it on the countertop. But even so, you can still put some brackets there and mount the filter on the wall to keep your countertop free. A really cool and very practical tip for everyday life. So, in your kitchen, trash can, on your sink countertop, and in your kitchen, would you use it? Personally, I don't like it and I wouldn't recommend it. In a new project, many clients, when we're designing, ask me like, don't forget my little trash can, okay? Should the trash can be in the wet area or the dry area of the countertop? Here's a tip. If you want a small trash can on your countertop by the sink, that's perfectly fine. In my opinion, it should be in the dry area, never in the wet area. That's my opinion. If there's no other way, if you really have to put it in the wet area, that's fine, okay? Now, if the project allows, and as always, you can have the little trash can in the dry area, but I'm one of those people who don't like having the trash can on the countertop. Okay? That's just my personal opinion. If you hired me to do a project, I would tell you that. Look, let's not put the trash can here on our countertop, okay? First, we can't have a big trash can on our countertop. It would have to be a tiny one over there, okay? Second, I don't know. I don't think it's very hygienic to have a little trash can on the countertop. I'm not criticizing you if you have one, for God's sake, okay? If you have a little trash can on your kitchen counter, I'm not criticizing you. I'm just saying that in a project I would do, I wouldn't put one. I prefer to put a trash can, for example, in two situations. The traditional floor one, where you step on the pedal and so on. Or a trash can built into the cabinet itself, right there in the cupboard. What's also very common now is having it on top of my countertop. I don't like it, I'm not a fan, but I'd like to hear your opinion. Would you put a little trash can on your sink countertop, on your new stone that you're going to install there? Let me know. For me, it's like, yes, I would use the trash can on my countertop. It's like, I don't agree with you. It has to be that traditional trash can, the floor one or the cabinet one. 220 volt outlet. You have no idea how much of a difference it makes to have a 220 outlet in your kitchen. For those of us in Sao Paulo, I live here, we have both 127 and 220 volt power, but there are places here in Brazil where there's only 220, and then all the appliances are 220. It's more common in the northeast and the south, in those regions. Now here in the southeast, it's very common for us to use 127 volts for all the power outlets in our house. When we're working in the kitchen, think about how important it is to have at least one 220 volt outlet on your kitchen counter, even if you have all your kitchen appliances. 127 volts. But at least leave one outlet, you know, that little outlet, even if it's next to the fridge, in a hidden corner over there and all. But make sure to keep one 220 volt general purpose outlet in your kitchen just so you have that option. Because when you need to use some device, some equipment that only works on 220 volts, some powerful appliance, something like that, you'll already have it. Okay, so sometimes to do it, oh, I didn't leave any 220 volt outlets here, so now I have to make the change. The change is going to cause a little bit of trouble. It might even mean breaking some things. If you're renovating your kitchen and handling electrical work, just ask the electrician to leave a 220 volt outlet in case you need it. That's a great tip for you too. Mate porcelain tile on the floor is, okay, I'm in favor of using porcelain material, including matte finish on our kitchen floor. I've already received several questions from you guys asking, like, do you recommend using vinyl flooring in my kitchen? Like, do you recommend using polished flooring, porcelain, or some kind of polished ceramic on our kitchen floor? I don't think so, okay? I wouldn't recommend you use vinyl flooring in the kitchen or polished porcelain in your kitchen. I'm one of those people who like to design and always recommend porcelain tile for the floor to the client, okay? Always porcelain tile. And in the kitchen and bathrooms too, taking this opportunity, and also in the laundry room, satin. Okay? For those of you who can't tell the difference between polished and satin, it's simple. Polished is shiny, satin isn't. It's matte. What does that do for you? Does it affect your daily life? It's a matter of safety. Satin gives you a little more grip so you feel safer walking on it. It won't be as slippery, to put it more clearly. If polished gets wet, it becomes more slippery. That's natural. Let's leave the polished one for the wall, porcelain tile on the wall, but for the floor, porcelain tile and even satin. Functional lighting. In neutral white, you need to have centralized lighting with a main fixture using neutral white. Do you want to use warm white, the warm white lighting, which is that more yellowish one for your kitchen? There's no problem at all. You can use it if you like and want to use it. There's no problem at all. Go ahead and use it. In the current projects I do, I always recommend my clients to use neutral white on the kitchen ceiling. Okay, to make the environment brighter, more pleasant for daily use and especially for the kitchen. Guys, we need to have a main functional lighting, whether it's those recessed fixtures, the longer ones, or LED strips. But it has to light up. It has to be functional lighting. I walk into my kitchen, I press the switch, and it has to be well lit. Your kitchen is a place where you need to pay attention. You'll be cooking food, cutting food, cleaning all the time. So you need to have functional lighting. And my tip for you is to use neutral white lighting, okay? And a good fixture with strong, high capacity lighting. When you turn it on, that's the one you'll use in your daily routine. You can have spotlights in your kitchen, sure. You can have strip lights. You can have some pendant lights over the counter. There's no problem at all. You can have different types of lighting, but the main lighting, that big fixture that's going to light up the space, that one can't be missing. And finally, guys, the faucet. I want to talk to you now about two models, okay? I'm in favor of that cleaner faucet, but there are a lot of people who like the gourmet faucet. Before we talk about this last item here about the faucet, the LED, that LED strip you can put underneath right there under the cabinet. I'll also leave, for example, the built-in trash can or the floor trash can. I'll leave those options for you as well. And now the faucet, I want to talk to you about the faucet here. I'm an advocate, and those of you who follow me here know of using a cleaner, more minimalist, lighter faucet, one that even has a filter in it. Clearly, it has higher value and costs more. Other people have already replied to me here saying they like the gourmet faucet, and that's totally fine. In my current project, I would recommend you use the smoother, cleaner, more minimalist faucet. There's nothing wrong with it. If you want a gourmet faucet because you find it cool or think it's functional, that's fine, but I prefer a simpler faucet for one single reason. Actually, there are several, okay? There are some advantages and disadvantages to the gourmet faucet, and among them, the advantage that I see in the gourmet faucet. It has a good reach, it has a sprayer and all, it works really well, it's really big. Usually a gourmet faucet is very big, it really stands out, and in your decor it has materials. If you don't buy a good material, it will rust easily. Because it's a big faucet, if you install it directly on the sink, it will need maintenance sooner because it shakes a lot due to its size. All right? So a cleaner, lighter, simpler, and smoother faucet, I think, will work much better compared to a gourmet faucet. But if you have one, or if you want to install one, there's no problem at all. Okay, guys? So here are 15 tips actually, not even 10, but 15 that you can use in your kitchen. Practical tips that will make your kitchen work well for your daily use. Some inexpensive items that you can save money on when buying, and some of them you can already take care of during the construction phase of your kitchen. All right? So I hope you guys enjoyed and liked these items here. If you enjoyed it, liked it, and you're not subscribed to our channel yet, go ahead and subscribe, all right? Some product links I mentioned are in the video description. And I'll see you in our next video. Take care.